Jordan Eberle will reach 1,000 career NHL games tonight at Climate Pledge Arena as the Seattle Kraken hold on desperately to their playoff hopes, and they'll have to get through the Vegas Golden Knights. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team, the Seattle Kraken, every single day. My name is Erica L. Ayala. I'm your host of Locked On Kraken. Been with the company for a while. Started with Locked On Women's Basketball. Started you off here on Locked On Kraken, and of course contribute to the Locked On NHL show for the Women's Hockey Spotlight. If you were looking for us on Friday, we did some trade deadline stuff, so we prioritized that, but we will get back to that soon. Want to let you know that today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Sleeper. Make sure you download that Sleeper app, and you will get up to a $100 match on your first deposit when you use promo code Locked On NHL. It's a big game today. We are playing the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, the last time we played them in Seattle was, of course, the Winter Classic, and things went well there. But this is not an outdoor game. This is not the Winter Classic. And now we are fighting alongside Vegas for a wild card spot. That's right. The Vegas Golden Knights have fallen out of the top three in the Pacific Division. That being said, because they fell out of the top three, that means that they are in wild card position right now. So what can the Seattle Kraken do? What will they have to do in order to be in a position to fight for that wild card? And we're going to talk about that on today's show, mostly in the second segment. But today we're going to talk about Jordan Eberle. He will reach 1,000 games and will do so in a Seattle Kraken uniform. He has played, of course, with Edmonton, with the Islanders, and now is with the Seattle Kraken. We talked about it the other day. He signed an extension with the Seattle Kraken just hours before the NHL trade deadline. That was effectively the biggest move that the Seattle Kraken made. And, it's a really important game for the Seattle Kraken. And you can hear from Eberle's comments today that he did want to focus on that. Now, he did speak to media yesterday. I'll post that video on our YouTube page and drop a bonus episode if you want to listen to that full media availability. But he did speak to media about playing in his 1,000th game. This will be his 1,000th regular season game. Originally selected by Edmonton as the 22nd overall pick in 2010, Eberle is set to become the fifth skater from his draft class to appear in 1,000 games. In addition, the forward is nearing three other NHL career milestones. Entering tonight's game, he's one assist shy of 400 career assists, 5 points shy of 700 career points, and 4 goals shy of 300 career goals. Eberle is second in franchise history among all Seattle Kraken skaters in all categories with 144 points. He's tied 55 goals and 89 assists in 220 games with the Seattle Kraken. For his part this season, 58 games played, 14 goals, 23 assists, 33 points overall. So obviously a player to watch is going to be Jordan Eberle. But I want you to hear what he had to say about today's matchup. He spoke to media after morning skate. Here is the one and only, and who I would love to see as perhaps a captain for the Seattle Kraken, Jordan Eberle.
Yeah, coming in. Yeah, awesome. Aaron, Well, congratulations. You're first off on the big day. What does it take to get to 1,000 games in this league? More mental fortitude or physical fortitude?
I think both. I mean, you have to have a little luck. I think I've had a lot of people. This isn't something I've really looked forward to. I don't love being the center of things and the spotlight, but I think it's kind of gives you a reflection of everyone that's helped you get to this point, and all these people that are coming. It means a lot to me. So, and then on top of that, I mean, this is a massive game for us. So it's been kind of just trying to focus on winning this one.
When you think about your career over the course of 1,000 games, are there certain moments, certain memories, or kind of turning points that stand out in your mind?
There's a lot, really. I mean, coaches I've had, guys I've played with, I've been fortunate enough to come in at a young age and able to do that. And my family, my wife, they've given up a lot. And then the individual moments, I think everyone remembers their first game. I mean, we had a couple of conference finals in Long Island. I think there's a lot that's gone over the years. It's tough to pick individual spots. Yeah, I mean, they made it pretty clear that they're trying to go for it, right? So for us, I mean, we trust the group that we have in here. We're comfortable in the situation we're in, and I think I've said it, I don't know, maybe a week ago, that the key for us is really, it's hard to look at the end picture right now and the end of the day, or the end of the season where things end up. It's more of a cliche mindset of day at a time and try and continue to play meaningful games all the way down the stretch, because you don't know where you find yourself after that.
1,000 NHL games is big, but do you find yourself thinking about the 1,000 games before that? Juniors, Team Canada, the youth games. What are you reflecting on about your life as a hockey player before you even got to these 1,000 games?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long road. It's, you look back at junior, you look at before junior when you're playing midget. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. My parents drive me to the rink. I mean, there's a ton, right? I kind of identify as a hockey player. It's what it's kind of been since I've been 3-4 years old. So I like to think as I've gotten older, I've grown up and I've started identifying different things as a father, as a husband. So, you transition, but it's been a great ride. I hope to continue to go as long as I can, and I feel like I have some more good years in me. So. This is obviously, I know the NHL makes a big deal of 1,000 games, and I feel special about it. But it just makes me reflect on the people that have helped me get there. I think, like I said, it's hard not to reflect on the people who have helped to get there, and all the people who have really supported me throughout my career and my time as a hockey player. So that means a lot.
Well, congratulations to Jordan Eberle. I said it the other day when we talked about his contract extension. He is one of the top 4 players right now for the Seattle Kraken as far as his impact on the ice, his leadership. I'd say he's maybe one of one. Truly, I think I'd probably put Jaden Schwartz and maybe Adam Larson in that same category with him. I think that Jared McCann has a specific leadership style as well. But I really like the extension for Jordan Eberle. I hear what people are saying with regard to, his age and his productivity, but I'll say what I said to one of our Locked On Kraken insiders as I was messaging with them individually about the news about the Eberle extension right ahead of the trade deadline. And here's what I wrote. I wrote to this insider, we can't win games without an Eberle on the roster as constructed. We can't attract active NHL players without winning games and being a playoff team. It's reported that Eberle took less to stay with the Seattle Kraken. I like the deal, and Ron Francis and company have to start getting serious so that Eberle isn't one of our best players 2 years from now. And that is the big shtick. We're not going to talk a lot about the trade deadline. I thought we were going to, as remote media, have access to that video. I'm trying to track it down for you, so I didn't get around to that bonus episode. But let's get through this homestand. So after the game against Buffalo, we will be on the road to play Vegas and then play Arizona. So sometime next week, I want to get into that piece. I like the deal, and we have to get serious so that Eberle, who will play in his 1000th NHL career game tonight. At least that's what we're expecting, that he's not one of our best players 2 years from now. Coming up next on Locked On Kraken, let's break down this game against the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll talk a little bit about what the Knights have been up to, how we performed against them in the Winter Classic, and how we won that game. You heard a little bit from Eberle, what he wants to see. We'll also hear from Dave Haxtell on what the Seattle Kraken have to do to get this critical win in Climate Pledge Arena against a Pacific Division rival, the Vegas Golden Knights. That's coming up on Locked On Kraken. Mentioned it at the top of the show, but want to let you know now that today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Sleeper. Now, we are well beyond the halfway point of the NHL season and are marching closer and closer to the playoffs. And there have been highs, there have been lows in this Seattle Kraken season, but regardless of where the Seattle Kraken sit right now, and more importantly, after tonight's game, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. Now, the way you do it with Sleeper is that you'll look at the different players, the different games, the different scenarios that they have, and you can win up to 100x your money by correctly predicting the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me right, Kraken fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. A reminder that entries can be made in under a minute, and you not only can put predictions in for the National Hockey League, but also the National Football League, the National Basketball Association, Major League Baseball, college football, and more right on Sleeper. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Now, terms and conditions will apply, but just head over to Sleeper for details and locational availability. Coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken, we're going to get you some notes for the game, ahead of the game. We'll get you some more notes for the game. We'll get you some more quotes, this time from head coach Dave Haxtell. And then we will close out the show just talking a little bit, of course, about the standings. And I know it's not a Friday, but I do want to let you know a little bit about the Firebirds and their all-star logo reveal. That's coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. I want to remind you that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's now also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. We talked about Eberle, his 1000th game we're expecting. We also heard reports from practice that Philip Grubauer was the first skater off of the ice, likely going to get the start. I know those of you who listened to our episode before the Winnipeg game, I was really expecting to see Philip Grubauer in that game. We saw Joey Decord. It ended up being a loss. We didn't really talk much about that game, and I'm not going to do that right now on today's episode. I want to focus this one on a game day. But let's know thy enemy, if you will. We're playing the Vegas Golden Knights. We have an opportunity to win consecutive games against Vegas for the first time, but we've got to put in the work. Overall record for the Golden Knights, 75 points. They're 34-23-7. As I mentioned, though, they are outside of that top 3 and now in the hunt for the wild card. Their away record, 14-13-5. You can see Jonathan Marchessault is their top scorer, 56 points. The power play, 19.2% clip. So we have the advantage there. We're at 21%. Their penalty kill, though, is at an 80.1% clip. And again, likely we're going to see special teams become a factor. I have a few more notes that I want to share regarding special teams. The Seattle Kraken are, of course, 14, 12, and 5 at home in the last 10 games. The Vegas Golden Knights, 3, 6, and 1. In our last 10, we are 6, 3, and 1. So we know that our guy, Dave Hextall, doesn't believe that momentum carries game to game, but within a 5-game span, within a 10-game span, as we just showed there, we can see that momentum favoring the Seattle Kraken. That being said, and we'll hear from Dave a little bit about this matchup, a little bit about Eberle, but we will not see Vince Dunn. And on our last episode, I know I talked about Cale Fleury coming up, and that was one of those things. I hadn't seen the news yet that the exchange had happened where Riker Evans went back to Coachella Valley. Cale came up, but it was one of those things, as we talked about in that Q&A series with Allison Lucan, that Ricky Olchak talked about, and Allison actually tweeted this. It's one of those transactional things on paper that needed to happen to make sure that Riker Evans can be available for the AHL playoffs as needed. So just wanted to clarify that because we haven't had a show since we talked about that. This game against the Vegas Golden Knights, we have to do the 3 Fs extremely well. Now, a few notes, though. I talked about special teams, and here's why I think special teams can be huge, not just because of the stats that I showed you, but the amazing PR team over at the Seattle Kraken sent this with the game notes. The Kraken have been perfect on the penalty kill in their last 3 meetings with the Golden Knights, going 7 for 7 while playing a man down during that span. So again, statistically speaking, the analytics, the numbers, well, more so the numbers, not necessarily the analytics, are showing that the Seattle Kraken can be a force to be reckoned with when it comes to special teams. We right now have a better power play than the Vegas Golden Knights, and we've been effective on the penalty kill. That being said, Vince Dunn, he was out of a red jersey from reports at practice. That being said, again, Dave Hextall did confirm that he will not be available for tonight. And of course, we have to talk about it. No more Alex Wenberg on this roster, which of course has changed things up with special teams. But who are we trusting in? In Jared McCann, we trust. And we talked about it a few episodes ago. The emphasis on McCann in special teams areas, is that taking away from what he can do 5-on-5? It's at least a query, if you will, that Coach Hack mentioned. And he said that he wants the team to be in situations where they're playing 5-on-5 a little bit more. And that one of the benefits of doing that, of course, is that you get the full display of McCann's repertoire, of his toolkit. So I thought that was an interesting note. I'm very curious to see how the Seattle Kraken play against this Vegas team. And speaking of Jared McCann, he has totaled 30 points, 13 goals, 17 assists in his last 23 games, dating back to January 11th against Washington, who we will also see this week. He's recorded 8 multi-point efforts during that span. So if you're heading over to Sleeper, maybe Jared McCann, someone whose odds you want to take a look at and see if you get the over-under correct. Also, McCann has 14 points, 5 goals, 9 assists in his last 11 games played at Climate Pledge Arena, dating back to January 21st against Toronto. And of course, we talked about that 4 multi-point games during that span. Now, here's another little nugget. Matty Beniers enters tomorrow's game 8 points shy of becoming the first player from the 2021 NHL draft class and the 6th player in franchise history to reach the 100-point milestone. So I'm very curious to see if maybe we can get Matty Beniers going. Now, again, with the injury to Vince Dunn, the lines have changed a wee bit from what we might be familiar with. But here are the lines that we saw against the Winnipeg Jets: Jaden Schwartz, Jared McCann, and Oliver Bjorkstrand, Tomas Tatar, Matty Beniers, and Jordan Eberle, Ellie Tolvanen, Yanni Gord, and Andre Burakovsky, Ty Cartier, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, and Brandon Tanev. Now, it's been Brian Dumoulin with Adam Larson, Alexiak and Borgen staying together, and then Schultz and Riker Evans. I told you before that Joey Decord started that game, but we are expecting to see Philip Grubauer. So Kyler Yamamoto was a scratch from the Winnipeg game. I'm curious to see if he makes this roster, this lineup here. But with McCann still centering there, unless you want to move around Ty Cartier a little bit, but it looks like they're going to rely on Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. And I don't think that's a bad idea, especially against a Vegas team. But we know that Vegas has made some moves. You heard Eberle say that he feels it's an indication that they're taking things seriously. So what are we going to see? Both of these teams fighting for a playoff spot. We'll talk a little bit about the standings and the odds, because they're extremely different playoff odds for these two teams. But can the Seattle Kraken start moving the momentum in the right direction? Because they're not out of time yet, but we're getting close to time. And a win like this against Vegas would really be great for the Seattle Kraken if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. So, of course, we'll talk about that. And I want to show off the Coachella Valley logo for the All-Star Weekend. If you remember, everydayers and OGers, I actually had a podcast invasion while I was at Kraken Community Iceplex. That's how we broke the news that the Coachella Valley Firebirds will be hosting the next AHL All-Star Classic. And so now we get a look at the logo. And so we'll talk about that coming up on today's episode of Locked on Kraken. Today's episode of Locked on Kraken brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy, and it is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts, you can find what you need for your number one ride or die, and you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. And the eBay Guaranteed Fit is available for U.S. customers only. Thanks as always, Seattle hockey fans, for making us your daily destination right here on Locked on Kraken. Erica L. Ayala coming to you live. I'm recording live and here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We'll be on the road a little bit later this week, but we can get into that. But, it's a game day, and we're going to get you ready here. I believe I talked a little bit about the odds in the open. 15.7% are the odds right now per puck money for the Seattle Kraken to make the playoffs. If you remember, that's a drop from the odds that we talked about before the Winnipeg game. The odds for the Vegas Golden Knights to make the playoffs, 84.5%. So yeah, significantly better. And the Seattle Kraken right now are really jockeying for position, and we haven't seen as much movement or change as we might want to. But again, that's why tonight's game could be critically important. And as far as games that we are on the watch for, that's probably that Minnesota game. They're playing the Arizona Coyotes, and a solid there would be pretty nice, that being from Arizona. That's because when you look at the standings in the Western Conference for the wild card, we again have Vegas now in the mix. They are right behind the Nashville Predators, who we've been talking about and who will also see this week. The St. Louis Blues at 69 points, and then the Minnesota Wild right ahead of us, also with 69 points. As I mentioned earlier, we have 67 points in the standings. Just to go back to it, the Predators with 78 points, the Vegas Golden Knights with 75 points. So, we want Arizona to do us a solid and take some points away from Minnesota. A regulation win would be solid. But even if the Minnesota Wild don't get any points tonight, that keeps them at 69. The only way we can catch up to them is if we win tonight's game and we win in regulation, get those 2 points outright. Or, we win the game and get 2 points, I should say. So, it's a big game, but it's doable. But it has to be getting to those 3 Fs: fun, fast, forechecking. I meant to play what Dave Haxtell was talking about in the last segment. We didn't get to it. So let's hear from Dave what he had to say before tonight's game against Vegas.
Well, first off,
I was a guy that's thrived in this league, right? And he's been able to do it. He's been able to do it by evolving his game and continuing to grow. And I think it starts with he's got some old school toughness to him. He's a guy that he plays through a lot of things. He prepares himself very well. Very intelligent player, he's a guy that has been able to put all of those things together to be a very consistent player. And that's what it takes to stay in this league. And I mentioned continuing to evolve. He's a guy that continues to work at pieces of his game and make sure that he continues to grow. Well, the opportunity for us is, it's quite obvious in terms of the points that are that are available tonight and the team that we're playing against. So, we're playing against a team that, they look like they're hitting their stride a little bit the last couple of games. They're a big team, right? So we're going to have to be really good at the things that we do well. And, that's the challenge that's in front of us. We're going to have to play fast tonight. We're going to have to execute very, very well under pressure. If we do those things, we're going to like the looks of our game.
what impact do you feel the first 20 minutes can make for a game like this tonight?
Well, it's a 60-minute hockey game, so obviously pardon me?
Will Dunn be a game time decision?
No, Vince Dunn is out tonight.
So there you heard a bunch of things from Dave, including saying that not only has Eberle survived in the NHL, but he has indeed thrived. You heard him talk about the size of Vegas, that this has to be a 60-minute effort. Sure, an early start, a quick start is going to be key, but it always is. And I talk about this all the time. The Seattle Kraken don't play well, statistically speaking, when we're having to play from behind. And that's just going to be something that the Seattle Kraken need to continually focus on. And just some of the numbers again, when the Seattle Kraken are leading after the first period, 18-5-1. The Vegas Golden Knights, when leading after the first period, they're 17-3-2. When either team, first Vegas trailing after the first, they're 5-12-4. So a good start for us. That puts the Vegas Golden Knights on the back foot. But similarly, same thing for us. We're 3-12-4 when trailing after the first period. Leading after 2 periods of hockey, 24-1-2 for Vegas, 21-0-4 for the Seattle Kraken. Flip side of that, 3-17-2 when trailing is Vegas after the second frame, and we are 2-20-4. So there you go. An early start, sure. But that being said, scrappy, gotta play scrappy all the time. And we've seen that be something that the Seattle team at least can and has built upon. Do I think it's elite level kind of comeback kids? Absolutely not. But I know that we have it in us. I wasn't sure if we had it in us at stretches in this season, but we really don't want to go there. So it's going to be a good game. I hope you're going to be watching. Super thrilled for those of you who get to watch at CPA. Although I do want to send some love to DJ Trunks, man. I'm hearing that maybe it's a no-go for him coming back. I think that'd be unfortunate. So DJ Trunks, I don't know if you're listening or watching the show, but anyone who follows DJ Trunks on social media, make sure you send some love. Does seem like you can hear him around Seattle through Mariners games, expecting to hear him at the Seattle Storm games. So hopefully it's not the end of the road for DJ Trunks at CPA. Anyone who's ever seen me in the press box knows I love jamming out to DJ Trunks. So hopefully that will happen. But before we close out today's show, ta-da! Look at that all-star logo. You've got the mountains in the back. You've got the palm tree. 2025 All-Star Classic, AHL All-Star Classic at Coachella Valley. I think it's clean. You can see kind of the full graphic here. Acrisure Arena in the backdrop in the valley. I still haven't been to Acrisure Arena. I had a few near misses, but hopefully I can make my way out there, if not for this, soon enough. But thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to one another. Hold fast. Stay true. And loud and proud, we say tonight, let's go Kraken. I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody. Let's go Kraken!